Kindly let me know in the chat room if you can hear me. All right. Okay, so good morning to my Ghanaian friends and good afternoon to my Nigerian friends and colleagues. It's a pleasure to have all of us back on here again, and we welcome you all to our monthly HR Knowledge series. Please let me know if today is your first time here or if you've been with us since last year or the beginning of this year. Give me a wave if you've been with us and then send a message in the chat room if it's your first time here with us. Okay. Okay. You are all welcome. Let's not waste time since we have very limited time. Um Last month, we explored knowledge management systems, and the feedback so far has been very amazing and inspiring. And I think every one of us is already applying what we learned from last month in our workplaces. It's very beautiful when we hear and we see such feedbacks. And so today we are going to shift our focus to a very, very critical area in HR. This is recruitment, strategic recruitment, and cost per hire, which is ISO 30405 and 30407. And so let's be attentive and give the speaker all our minds and let's get ready to engage. So at this point, I'll read out the speaker's profile, then I hand over to the speaker. All right, can you kindly display the speaker's profile?
Yeah, please just give me a minute.
Sure. Thank you. Okay, let's have it. So that is our handsome speaker, a handsome speaker's picture displayed over there. So Papa Owusu Bonsafo Bewa, BBA PHRI LLB, is a human resource strategist, talent acquisition specialist, and labor consultant with strong expertise in recruitment strategy and HR advisory. He currently provides HR, management, and labor consulting services, supporting organizations to attract, access, and retain high performance talent while ensuring compliance with labor law. He has led end to end recruitment processes across multiple sectors, delivering effective hiring solutions for critical roles and building sustainable talent pipelines. In addition, he brings a complementary experience in learning and development, delivering targeted training to enhance workforce performance. Papa holds a PHRI certification, a Bachelor of Business Administration, and a Bachelor of Laws degree, and is recognized for his practical, results driven, and people centered approach to organization growth. So, with an E round of applause, let's welcome our speaker. Okay, so
Sorry. I believe you can hear me.
yes, please, we can.
Okay. Um, I'm trying to share my screen, but while I do, yes, while I share my screen, I would like to know from us on the chat box. what our expectations are for today's session. And so you can put in a chat box what your expectations are. Just a quick one whilst I try to share my screen. Thank you very much, Gladys and A4S, for the opportunity to share with you our experience in the field. And I don't take this opportunity for granted. So whilst I wait for us, I'd like to see our expectation. I'd like to see our expectations in the chat box. So Gladys, can you confirm if you can hear me clearly?
Hi, Papa. We can hear you clearly.
Okay. Can you see my screen?
It was on for a while, but we can't see it again. Okay, it's visible now.
I guess now it's better.
Yes, please.
Okay. Yeah, hello, Gladys. Yes, if you can help me read a few of what is in the chat box, I'll be grateful.
All right. Let me see. Okay, there's been nothing yet.
Oh,
It's just
that's
someone
fine.
saying the service is bad.
Okay, but I guess it's better now.
Yes, it's better now.
Okay. All right. So I will start by saying that people management is the fulcrum of every organization. And sometimes some organizations think downplay the role of people in the whole work environment. And I always tell them anytime I consult for them, try to use this analogy. Even if you are using AI to develop your ideas, the query is being done by someone. And so even AI needs the support of people to make it work. And so for me, my philosophy has always been that people are the fulcrum, are the pivot of everything that we do. And hence, it is important to bring in the right people to your organization. It is very, very key and important to bring in the right people in your organization, because when you take people out of the equation, everything crumbles in an organization. So, for example, if your people are not performing, there's a problem. And so it is important that we pay much attention to our people. Now, in paying much attention to our people, we need to look at how they come in the organization. the entry point. The entry point is very important because it's the entry point that allows people to come into a system. And every organization is built around the system, whether it's being officialized or not. It's built around the system. And so it's important that people are taken care of, especially when they are entering, and we are able to find the right people at the entry point. Hence, the need for recruitment. Now, the need for recruitment first is the need for recruitment in the area of procedures, standards, and policies. Because you see, if you don't have a standard to bring people in, if you don't have a policy, policies are guidelines. They are things that helps you to bring people in. If you don't have them, you will struggle, one, with bringing people in. And if you're even able to bring people in, you will not get the right fit. And so hence, I believe ISO came together and decided to look at some frameworks and procedures to guide recruitment, because recruitment is very key. But you see, you cannot just bring up frameworks and guides for recruitment without losing sight of evaluation. How do you evaluate the processes you put in place? Because we always need to check whether the system is working. And the best way to check whether the system is working is to evaluate the system, is to analyze the system. Hence, we need an analytical system. So ISO also came up with the standards of cost of hire, which looks at the evaluation bits of recruitment. Because this analysis helps you to know whether you are being efficient or being effective. And so with this introduction, I would like to share a quote by Steve Jobs. Steve Jobs is an interesting character in the business world. His first attempt, he didn't have regard for people, but when he went out of Apple and came back, his regard for people went to a different level because he had learned, and because he didn't have regard for people, Apple was coming down, and the one who is a partner of the business was sacked at a particular point in time as CEO, went to form his own company and came back. And when he came back, he was accepted back as CEO until he died. And so Steve Jobs, for me, is a character to study. And this is what he said. He said, I have learned over the years that when you have really good people, you don't have to baby them. By expecting them to do great things, you can get them to do great things. And for me, there are lots of things in here. What I'll focus on is when you have really good people, you don't have to baby them. How do you get good people? You get good people through your recruitment. And if you have the best of recruitment procedures, systems in place, you get good people in your organization. And so recruitment is always for me, I always say it is the door. It is the gatekeeper of every organization. If you get it wrong, the organization's performance will be wrong. If you get it right, the organization's performance will be right. So now you're looking at purpose and impact. The question is, why recruitment matters? Why do you think recruitment matters? And as I already indicated, it's for effective revenue growth. So if you're a business owner here, you are an HR manager, you are an HR officer, if you get your recruitment right, you get your business growth right. Revenues will come in. So for example, if you have a salesperson who understands his or her job, is hardworking, and you get such a person who is willing to even take initiatives without asking him or her, the tendency of growing your revenues are high. And so if you make the right recruitment decision, you will grow your revenues. Profits will also increase. Organizational performance will be better. All because you make good decisions when it comes to recruitment. Now, what does ISO 30405 2016 does? Now, just a little bit. My background is also, I have a compliance background in ISO 9001 2015, management, quality management. And so I really appreciate the ISO frameworks and I can dare say going through the recruitment procedure is a very good guideline to use. In fact, it sums up everything. And if you are an HR practitioner and you are developing a recruitment policy, I will encourage you to look at the ISO policy, the ISO standards. It gives you some good guidelines to be able to come up with policies and procedures. It's very solid. Now, this provides some guidelines. Now, it provides the guidelines and says that recruitment starts with attraction. And I'll explain what attraction is all about. Then from attraction to sourcing, I'll explain what sourcing is also about in our next slide. Then assessment, employment, then onboarding procedure. Now, you will not find all the onboarding procedures in the recruitment structure. You a bit has been given. Yeah, hello. I'm glad can I still be heard?
You went off for a while.
Yeah, I noticed. Okay, that's
Okay.
fine. I guess I'm back now. That's fine.
Yes, you're
Sorry.
back.
So we looking at attraction, sourcing, assessment, employment, and onboarding. And as I was explaining that onboarding, when it comes to onboarding, you're not looking at the whole concept of onboarding when it comes to recruitment. We are looking at onboarding in between the point in where the offer letter was given to the point where the person starts work. So that means that the period where you are sharing HR policies with them, their letters for review, preparing for their seats, where they will sit, their offices, preparing their offices for them and all of that, all are part of recruitment. But immediately they settle in to sit and start work, recruitment onboarding ends there. Then the rest of the onboarding process, familiarization and all of that takes over, becomes another conversation when it comes to onboarding. Now let's look at attraction before we look at sourcing. Now there's a concept called employer branding. Today, if I ask you, and I would like you to put in the comment section, to my Ghanaian people, which of the organizations would you like to work in or work with? And to my Nigerian people, which organization in Nigeria would you like to work with? I want to see the comments before I continue. Which organizations would you like to, if you get opportunity, you grab that opportunity to work with? I'm waiting. I'm waiting for us to post in our comment. Okay, somebody is saying SNET. Belinda says SNET. PWS. Okay. That's Obi. Okay. Seplat. PWC. Okay. Unilever, Google. Now, in the chat box, can you put the reason why you want to work with these organizations? Just one reason. Make it brief in the chat box. Why do you want to work with this organization? Just make it brief. Great culture, good pay. But the question is, Grace, have you worked in that organization before? So, Grace, I'm chatting with you on the chat box. Have you worked in that organization before? Yes, somebody saying Unilever because there's recruit because the recruitment is based on merit. Okay. No, you have friends there. And the friends there are giving you good reports from World Bank. They are telling you that the salary is good, I believe. They are telling you that the environment is good. They take care of you and all of that. I believe that's what they are telling you. Now, that image you have about World Bank is what we call employer branding. They've been able to brand themselves intentionally so that people or those who are outside the organization will desire to work there. So today, if World Bank decides to recruit or put out an advert, they will have a lot of people applying for the job, all because they decided to make the organization attractive for the people. And that's what we call employer branding. I don't want to ask you which organizations do you wish you will not work there at all. I won't ask you. But those organizations, you will not want to work in those organizations because their image is wrong or they don't have the right image. And so that's what employer branding means. Now, organizations invest in that branding. They invest heavily in that image. They invest heavily by making sure that we are not doing compensation and benefit, but they invest heavily by making sure that they are leading in terms of compensation. And so you take the compensation of a World Bank staff, and you know that in their industry, they are leading in terms of how much they pay, leading in terms of the amount they are paying is higher. Their culture is top-notch. They invested in their culture, the way their people live. They decided to invest in their culture because they want to portray a certain image. And that is what we call employer branding. And that is one of the ways to attract top-notch people. So when it comes to some organizations and they are doing recruitment or they put adverts there, they are always getting the best of the best applying for the role. So as an HR practitioner, as a CEO, as a business development person, as a business officer, what image are you helping your organization to build to attract the best of talent? That's one. Now let's look at the concept of sourcing. Now, before we look at the concept of sourcing, let me I've already taken you through this earlier. So let me go to the concept of sourcing. Now, talent sourcing strategies. Now, how do you source for talent? When we say talent sourcing, we are saying we are looking at the market in which you can get your employees or you can get your pool of hire. So you are looking at areas you can get the pool to hire from. Now, one of the areas you can get the pool to hire from is internal. You're looking at your internal organization. So you can post a job advert internally on the notice board via company WhatsApp platforms, emails. Decide to post a job internally. That's what we call internal postings. You decide to post a job advert internally. There are different strategies to internal postings, but posting it on your notice board, your WhatsApp platform, via email, send a general email on companies' email, and then sometimes some companies have quarterly or monthly newsletters they give to staff, posting their job ads there. And that's what we call internal posting. Now, internal posting is good. For me, as a recruitment consultant, normally when an organization approach me and ask me, Papa, we want you to help us recruit for the organization. The first thing I ask them is, do you have an internal talent that is capable of performing that role? That's the first question I ask before I even go out and look for somebody outside for you. Now, there are some instances where the organization will tell them that, yes, we do, but maybe the environment the person creates is not something we want. We want a new person who will bring in a new energy. Then I say, okay, that's your recruitment strategy. So then we decide to go in for that. But you see, it is cost effective if you develop a succession planning. And that's not part of our conversation today, but you develop a proper succession planning system to be able to move people through the organization's hierarchy so that if you have to recruit, you recruit at the entry level, because it's very expensive to recruit at the top level. For example, if you are recruiting for an HR manager, it's very expensive. But if you're recruiting for an HR executive, it's not expensive. So the question I normally ask is, if when your HR manager left, or whilst your HR manager was there, did your HR manager have a deputy or an assistant? Very important. If you had a deputy or an assistant, was the deputy or assistant developed into the HR manager's role? Because that should be what the organization should, and that should be the thinking of every organization, because it's very expensive. And we'll look at higher cost and cost per hire conversation very soon. And you will notice that if you want to be efficient and effective, you need to start paying attention to your internal postings. The next thing we'll look at is external agencies, like some of us, where you come to us, you partner with us, and we will help you get the right fit for your organization. And for those of us who are specialized in recruiting, you come to us, you tell us what you need, and we help you go into the market or even look within and find you a talent that fits into your culture, not just a talent that is able to perform based on the job description, but a talent that also fits in your culture and aligns with your organization's vision. Very, very important. Then we have campus recruitment. Campus recruitment in Ghana is really, apart from a chassis university that is intentional about campus recruitment, I'm yet to see a university that is heavily intentional. When I say being intentional, it's part of their strategy. I know there are some universities that have lecturers there that promotes that, but I'm talking about in the university's DNA, making sure that they link their students to organizations. And so campus recruitment is when companies identify talent and they help them grow, and maybe they are out of school, they join them. So they help them grow by giving them internship opportunities. Then they give them a national service opportunities. In Ghana, we do national service. In Nigeria, I know you do a similar thing, giving them that opportunity right after the university to join the organization. So within a year or two, the person builds up. Then right after the national service, the person is absorbed into the company or the organization. That's what we call campus recruitment. It starts with identifying the talent from the organizations and then bringing them from the universities and bringing them into the organizations. Then we're looking at employee referral. If your organization treats your employee very well, your employee themselves will be bringing people, top-notch people, recommending people for the organization. I know a company in Ghana that doesn't struggle recruiting top talent because the employees always recommend, and they poach. It's the employees that go in to poach people from the organization, bring them into their businesses, and they join them. So employee referral is very good, and it takes an organization that is intentional for the employee to refer people to the organization. Now, assessment and selection. Remember I said attraction, we've explained attraction, we've explained sourcing. Now you're looking at assessment. Now you've been able to post the jobs, you've been able to draw in talent, you've posted the jobs throughout the platforms or the procedures we've spoken about, brought in some applications. How do you assess to know this person is the right fit? Now, we can assess one through skill testing. That's validate technical, that's hard skills. So sometimes you go to the organization and the questions they are asking you or the scenarios they are giving you are real life job scenarios for you to answer, so that they know that they are able to assess you to come to a conclusion of whether you are able to perform or not. You have the cognitive abilities, that's the mental assessment that organizations do. And so they do critical thinking, they give you critical thinking questions, aptitude tests, and all of that. Structured interviews. When I say structured interviews, you are called to, you meet an interview panel, and there are different types of interviews. There's the closed, the open-end interviews, and all of that. But structured interviews helps to assess the people. So, for example, we have a criteria that we are assessing the people or the applicants on, and that's the same criteria we use for all the applicants. And that shows that the interviews are structured. As I said, there are different types. There are the unstructured interviews. Normally, I don't advise unstructured interviews because it becomes difficult to really give a proper assessment of the applicants. And so structured one is always good. Then we look at work simulations. So, for example, there are some jobs that are driving or forklifting. You have to do some simulation. So you asked to drive around a specific area where the company will be monitoring you, will be checking your speed, be checking your your knowledge in terms of knowing the area well and all of that. And so that's what we call work simulation. Some organizations will tell you that as part of the selection process, we would like you to come to the office. This is a problem we are facing in the office. Come and solve it maybe for 2 months. Some of the organizations will compensate you for that 2 months and see if you're able to solve the problem. Then if you're able to solve the problem, you are given a full-time appointment. To the sales people, some organizations will give you a sample, go and sell, come based on the results. They will say we are giving you a full-time appointment. That's what we call work simulation. Then we look at background checks, which is very important because there are a lot of people. I recently did a labor case for an organization, and their head of HR, when you look at the work the head of HR did, and you compare it to the qualification that the HR says he holds, and we did some basic checks, it was not tallying. And this was because the organization failed to do background checks on whether the qualification the HR manager was holding was valid or not. And so background checks are important when it comes to assessment. And there are a lot of tools for assessment. Then from after assessment, you look at the employment. Employment bit is where you tell the person that you have been selected for the role. This is how much you tell the person the terms and conditions. You bargain, and if the person is okay, you give the person an employment contract or an offer. Then if the person accepts the offer, you arrange for the person to start work. And so that's employment. And that basically ends there. And I think I explained earlier what the recruitment onboarding is. Now we'll take cost per hire standards. And cost per hire standards is to help us evaluate how much we are spending or how much the organization spends in hiring an employee. We want to know how much we spend. Now, in knowing how much we spend, if we did an internal recruitment, we need to find out how much it costs us to recruit internally. So what you do is if you have your calculators or your books with you, if you have your calculators or your book with you, just I've seen your question. Gladys, please note the question down for me. I'll answer them. I'll be done with my presentation very soon so that I can take all the questions. So when we talk about cost per hire, we have different cost per hire. We have the internal, when you are recruiting internally. Now we are looking at the total internal recruitment cost divided by the number of hires for the organization. So let's do a little bit calculation. So first, for your internal hire, what the things you can put in the chat box, the things or how much or the things you spend on to recruit from in-house. Sometimes HR think that we don't spend any amount of money when we are recruiting internally. And when I get to do the HR benchmarking for organizations, and I mention certain elements or cost elements, they ask me, Is it part of the cost element? And when I explained it to them, they said, yes, it's true. So you can put in a chat box the things that you think we spend on when you are doing internal recruitment. Yes, those, if you have any idea, you can put in a chat box. Cost on posting jobs, yes, especially if you are doing the website posting and all of the online or notice board posting, you have to print out the notice. And so you are going to spend on the printout and all of that. Yes, cost of posting. Do you know that there's cost of staff when it comes to internal time spent shortlisting an interview? Yes. And that's where I was coming from. The staff that are working on it and are working on the shortlisting, the interviewing, on the recruitment process, they are paid. And so the period in which they use for the recruitment, that time could have been used for another thing or something else. And so that period, you have to calculate. So, for example, if they spent 12 days on the recruitment process and the person is paid 2,000 cedis on monthly basis. Oh, sorry, 2,000, yes, $2,000 on monthly basis. And he on monthly basis, which is equal to, let's say, 22 days. So 22 divided 2,000 divided by 20. I'm having this session with all of us. So let's do it together. 2,000 divided by 22. Let me see who the first person to get the answer. 2,000 divided by 22. Okay. It's 90.9. So 90, so it'd be $91. Now, so $91 times 12. What are we getting? $1,092. So $1,092. So this is how much we are spending when it comes to staff cost on an internal recruitment. And so you have to add this to how much or the amount of money you spent on printing the brochure or flyer or whatever, plus any other cost. The interview panel, you give the interview panel some allowances. You have to add that. You have to add, how do you call it? You have to add, if the staff are coming, you give them water when they sit and all of that at the interview. You have to add all of that. Adding all of this, you have to add all of this. Then you divide by the number of people you hired. Yes, catering for panel is very, very important, Deborah. You have to add all. Then now you divide by the number of hires you did. So let's say you only hired one person. So let's say we added all and we are getting $2,000 as cost of hiring internally, divided by 1. That tells you that you spent $2,000 on one hire. The question you ask yourself is it cost effective or not? Now, if you want to see whether other organizations are spending in the same way you are spending, that's what you do, what we call the benchmarking or the CPHC, which is CPH comparison, where you do a survey and you understand in your industry what goes into recruiting internally or externally. You do the calculation, you divide by the number of hires, then you have a benchmark. Then if the benchmark is $3,000 and you are doing $2,000, that means that the organization is being efficient and effective. But if another organization is doing $1,000 for one hire, that means that organization is being more effective than you. In as much as you are being effective, the organization is being more effective. This helps you when you are developing your recruitment strategy to look at all the areas so that you tell yourself, okay, What if I do job posting maybe on LinkedIn, it costs me $2,000, and I'm spending and when I do my cost per hire, I'm spending too much. Then the question is it cost effective? Should I find another method of sourcing for new hire? And these are things that as an HR practitioner, you need to avert your mind to. Then the last one we call the HCR, that's the higher cost ratio. Now, the higher cost ratio, you want to identify or you want to know the value of the recruitment process to the hire. So when I say the value, you want to find out how much out of the person's compensation are you spending on recruitment. Now, you can decide to do using the annual salary or the monthly salary. It depends on what you are looking for. So let's say a new employee's monthly salary is $10,000. And then you are spending $2,000 on recruitment. Who can help me with a percentage of this higher cost ratio? So you are doing, yes, 20%. That means that you are spending 20% of the person's monthly salary on recruiting the person. The question you ask yourself is, are you being efficient or effective? And what is the benchmark in terms of the industry when it comes to cost per hire? And these are some of the things or ways to evaluate your recruitment strategy to see whether it's working or not working. Now, data collection is key to your assessment or your evaluation. Not just collection, but segmentation. So what are some of the essential requirements for data quality in terms of collection and segmentation? Number one, accurate data collection. Implement consistent tracking system across all recruitment channels. So you make sure that you track every cost, every process. If you don't track every process, you will lose some of the cost element. And if you run the calculation, you will not get it right. And to not give you a very good picture of whether your recruitment processes are being efficient or being effective. Now, after you are done gathering the data, you need to segment it into which of the elements or the information you've gathered are internal costs, which of them are external costs. You need to segment them, because if you don't segment them, and maybe you want to just do an analysis on external cost, there'll be a problem. Then you need to develop a system where you put all these data in, unify them for an analysis. So Excel can help you. We have organizations that have systems that can easily help you. Now, what are the benefits of implementing an evaluation system or implementing both an evaluation system and a recruitment procedure? Now, one thing that it does is bring standardization. So if the HR manager is not around, the deputy can easily follow through with the recruitment process and get you the best of talent. And so it's very important that you standardize everything. So it gives you a structured process. Today, if there's an issue, the system still works. You don't need somebody to be there to police the system because you've decided to standardize it. And that's why you need the ISO procedures to do these things. Measurable efficiency or you are able to measure your efficiency. So tracking cost per hour, as I said earlier, in time helps you to identify or helps you to know whether you are optimizing your processes or you are getting good return on your investments. Then finally, you are able to get data-driven insights to help you with your future decisions. Now, what are the key takeaways of everything? First, adopt a structured framework. You cannot just do recruitment just like that. If you do it just like that, you get, let me use the Ghanaian slang, you get just like that people for your organization. So you need a structured framework. Now, one thing that we are taking away today is that if we are able to put in ISO 3047, that's the metrics or the analytic or the evaluation part of recruitment, we are able to set benchmarks. So for example, if you have not been doing it and this year you track and you realize that your cost per hire is $2,000, and next year you analyze and you get to know that your cost per hire was $2,500. What it tells you is that the following year cost per hire has gone up. If you're able to track for 3 years, you're able to have a trend, to be able to do a trend analysis, then it helps you to really see whether your recruitment methods are being efficient or effective. Now, if you have a standard or a system, it helps you with maintaining accurate data. And finally, it helps you to drive better outcome. In conclusion, I'll tell you this, that recruitment starts with a strategy. Your recruitment policy and procedure starts with a strategy. And if you have procedures or if you adapt the ISO procedures, it makes it easier to know what to think of when you are developing your strategy. Because this information or the data, the insight you gather from the data helps you to put in the right measures. So if, let's say last year, sourcing didn't give you good people, that is good data to plan for the following year, looking at different and efficient sources. Thank you very much for the opportunity to have this brief presentation with you. And I think I'll take your questions now.
All right, thank you very much, Papa. So, hi everyone. Please, it's question time. Let's kindly drop our questions in the chat room or on mute to speak. I think someone asked the question earlier. I took a snapshot, so I'll read it. She's asking that can all the salary and job details be made in the offer letter? And the candidate is not interested in the terms, they initiate negotiation. Is it possible for that?
Oh, sorry, I
Papa.
was muted. Yes. Can you repeat
Okay.
the second question? The
All right.
second
So
part of the question.
she's asking that, okay, so after stating salary and job details in the offer letter, if the candidate is not interested in the terms, can they initiate negotiation?
Okay. So now, when an organization gives you an offer, it stays as an offer. And it stays as an offer. Let me be a little bit legal. It stays as an offer subject to acceptance or counter, which is a rejection of the offer. So immediately you say, somebody tells you, I'll pay you $2,000 a month. And then you tell the person, oh no, I think I deserve $2,500 per month. What you've done is you've rejected the earlier offer of 2,000, and now you are proposing another offer of 2,500. And yes, you can always negotiate. You know, I always tell my students that always understand your value, know what you carry, and then negotiate based on your value. And so, yes, now it depends. In common law, which Nigeria and Ghana practice, you need to spell out all the relevant details in the contract, hence the employment contract. So all relevant details that is needed in the employee-employer relationship, it has to be there. Everything has to be there. The only thing is that sometimes some companies go the extreme of having 10 pages contracts and all of that. That one, I don't advise it. I advise against it. You can have all the information summarized in a way that the key details are there. Salary, provision on tax deduction. The job description can be a different document from the main contract offer. Some organizations merge both, but it can be a separate document that you sign off, acknowledging that this is the job that you have signed up for, and this is the contract terms. So some organization will refer the rules and regulations that governs this relationship includes the employment manual, the performance management procedure or policies, and all of that. They have that. So you sign the contract, and they will also bring the manuals for you to sign off. That you've seen them, you've acknowledged them, and you take the documents away. So you don't need to have one offer letter having every detail in there. It can have key summarized details there, depending on the country you're coming from, the laws. In Ghana, when you take our Labor Act, it has a structure or the basic information that has to be in your contract. And so it's in the Labor Act as, I think, as Schedule 1. So you can always refer to it and draft your contract. So basically, that would be my answer to Jessica. Jessica, I wanted me to repeat the formula. Okay, so the formula varies. If you have access to or you can go to the internet, you get it. The ISO document, all the formulas are there. So you can refer to them and it will help you. And it gives some details to it.
Okay, there's another question in the chat room, and she is asking, how do we manage recruitment effective when the hiring manager or line manager wants recruitment his or her way? How do HR standardize the process, knowing that this hiring manager brings revenue to the company? That question is from Grace.
Okay, this is why you need to make sure that you have a standard. Now, if it's a standard that the organization has agreed on working with, the hiring or line manager has no say because that's organization's policy. It's not the HR's policy. It's a policy the organization has adapted to. So the hiring manager has no say. And you see, if you develop a standard or a policy, going through the policy or standard development procedures, you will not have this issue. And let me explain. Now, in going through a policy or developing a policy or standard, when I was consulting for an organization to develop the ISO standards, what we did was we did something we call stakeholder engagement. Everybody brought their views on board. We explained to them, even before they brought their views on board, what ISO demands. Because we are going for an ISO certification, what ISO demands. So you have to explain to them what the policy rationale, the purpose of the policy. They need to appreciate that. Then they can bring their views on how to achieve the vision or the objective of the policy. Now, the purpose of the policy also should link to the general objectives and mission and vision of the organization. So they see that this is the aim of the policy and the procedures. And so they contribute to it. You develop it. All of them agree. You sign off. You run trainings on it for them. They know what is required of them. You make copies, put it in their offices. Now, immediately they come and they are challenging you. They don't want to follow the right procedure. You point them to their policy. I remember I had a similar encounter. Then I told this gentleman, and he was a top performer, one of our top managers. And I told him, in your work, do you have SOPs? He said, Papa, yes, we have. And I asked him, if your your team members decide to sidestep the SOP to use a more efficient way, how will you feel? Also, Papa, I will not be happy. They need to run it by me. I need to approve it. And I told the person that we have a policy and procedure for grievance, and this was a grievance issue. You need to follow it. If you don't follow it, you are breaking the procedures like you're doing now, and it solves the problem. So first, you need to have a policy. If you don't have a standard, that's where they tell you what they want you to do. So my encouragement to you is have a standard and you'll be fine.
Thank you very much. Please, we'll take the last two questions and then we give a few announcements and then we wrap up. We'll be waiting for the questions in the chat room. Last two questions, please. Okay. Papa, please. I think everyone understood or is fine with what you've told us so far. And so, on behalf of the A4S team, we want to say a very big thank you to you, Papa Abiwa. We are really grateful. And to all participants who joined, sacrificed their lunch time to join, we are really grateful. Attendance form has been put on the chat room. So let's kindly access it and then fill it out. You fill it out in a space of I think 24 hours, you get the link to the assessment and then you get a free certificate after taking the assessment. So please let's kindly fill out the attendance form. Or can you please display the screen for the other certification program? Okay. Thank you very much, everyone. Okay, so this is a quick one. There's a HRM and reporting practitioner training coming up based on international ISO standards. It's a great opportunity. I mean, if you want to go in HR and stand out professionally, this is the right course for you. And so the fee in Naira is 150,000 and in Ghana cedi it's 1,400 cedis. Installments payments is allowed. I think the link is also in the chat room as well. However, you can just send me a private message if you join our webinar group, and then I'll give you more details. I'll share the flyer on the page. Let's share it to our friends. Let's also take advantage and then get certified. Thank you very much. And we have a free HRAD session, HR assessment and diagnostic session. It's free. We come in as a team, we analyze your HR processes for you. So if you are interested in that one as well, you can give me a hi in the WhatsApp group. I'll put the flyers there after this call. Thank you very much for joining today's session. Please don't forget to fill out the feedback and assessment form. Thank you all. Have a good day. See you same time next month.